Welcome, dear viewers, to this special interview with the President of Somalia, His Excellency Hassan Sheikh Mohamud, conducted from inside the Presidential Palace in Mogadishu, the Somali capital. Your Excellency, welcome to Arabiya. Let me begin with your recent visit to Ethiopia to attend the official inauguration of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam at the invitation of Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. How does Somalia view the inauguration of the Renaissance Dam?
Well, the Grand Renaissance, Ethiopian Renaissance Dam was a big project that has been going on more than a decade under construction. And it is there for power generation, as we have been explaining to the area. The area is not an agricultural area, it's a mountainous area, but for 5,000 megawatt it will produce, as we have been. That has definitely have an impact on the Ethiopian economy, as well as the region. Already Ethiopia supplies electricity to Kenya, Sudan, Djibouti, of course not Somalia yet. But so that, and power and electricity, energy is the most important thing and prerequisite for any development. So it was good, and it was built there. Surrounded is other issues are there, but the dam as it is it was successful project by the Ethiopian government.
Mr. President, this issue raises many questions. Somalia has a strategic alliance with Egypt and has also recently restored diplomatic relations with Ethiopia. Speaking of your recent visit to Ethiopia and participation in the inauguration of the Renaissance Dam, a matter considered highly sensitive for Cairo, how is Somalia handling this issue amid complex regional and strategic shifts? And does this affect your relationship with Egypt, given how sensitive this file is to Cairo?
I can say only on the perspective of Somalia. Ethiopia is a neighbor. We have not chosen to be neighbors together here in the Horn of Africa. We share almost 2,000 kilometers of border with population on different sides of the border being Somalis and many other issues. And Ethiopia is a part, of course, of the African Union mission here, as well as Egypt now. So our relationship with Ethiopia was not meant to compromise our strategic relationship with Egypt. Somalia is a country that has one motto, which is Somalia at peace with itself and at peace with the rest of the world. So that is our motto, and we all, as I said yesterday, the other day in the inauguration of the dam, Somalia is ready to support both countries to understand each other, not only Egypt but Sudan as well. And there was an issue. This issue was going on for more than a decade now, and still is going on. And I think it will have a positive solution will come. And the issue we raised with the Prime Minister of Ethiopia as well, and he promised that he will be sitting with everybody who has a concern about the dam and its water.
Mr. President, in your view, what could be the path toward a solution or de-escalation between the two sides on this issue? And who could help restore balance and calm between them?
As I said in the inauguration, I said this dam, for some people it is for energy, and for others it is for water and food security. And both has to be mutually satisfied on their issues, and that can only take place through a peaceful solution and peaceful dialogue. And as far as I know, both Egypt and Ethiopia has always been willing to dialogue the subject. And I hope it will be soluble. There are international bodies who, and this is not the first time, the negotiations has been going on between Ethiopia, Egypt, Sudan, and other countries that have concerns on the Nile Delta, or Nile Basin, and this dialogue reached somewhere, and one of the times there was a signed agreement, another time discussions going on, and I think it will go on, and it will come up, the solution will come at the end.
A few days ago, an Egyptian military delegation arrived in Mogadishu in preparation for the deployment of Egyptian troops under the African Union mission to support stability in Somalia. How do you, Mr. President, view this step? And What will be the role of the Egyptian forces in Somalia?
Somalia and Egypt has a very, very long historic relationship and a very strategic partner as well recently. We have that strategic partner with Egypt, even Somalia, before we become independent. In the 1950s, when Jamal Abdel Nasser was there and when the Canal Suez was attacked, Somalia was not an independent, but the Somali people by that time, they stood up and they stand with the Egyptians. Since then, and our relationship is 1,000 years old, since Hatshepsut visited Somalia in those years, 5,000 years ago. So Somalia and Egypt has that type of bond together. In that line, Egypt now is participating in the peace mission, the African Union mission here in Somalia. This is the first time that Egypt is being part of the mission. You know, always there are delays here and there from the African Union, from the UN, from many places, but the Egyptians, they make the last assessment recent. When the officers come here, they assess the ground, they assess the area that they are going to operate. So what we are waiting only is the arrival, the first contingent of the Egyptians to arrive in Somalia soon and work in the umbrella of the African Union. But as well as Egypt has been supporting Somalia, Somali security forces, Somali defense forces, all of them by training, providing certain equipment. So the relationship between Somalia and Egypt is very, very strong.
There has been some Ethiopian discontent, or let's say concern, regarding the arrival of this Egyptian military delegation in Mogadishu. The Ethiopian ambassador to Somalia even expressed such concerns publicly. Did Addis Ababa communicate with you or raise this issue directly?
No. They've never been raised with my level or even with the ministerial level. I heard that the Ethiopian ambassador, but that was not right. But here one thing is Somalia is independent and sovereign state, and our decisions are sovereign as well. So we choose Egypt to come here, and definitely they will.
Mr. President, how do you view the recent statements by Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, in which he described his country's loss of access to the Red Sea as a historic mistake and a matter of national survival, pledging to regain that access? Do you consider this a threat, even indirectly, to Somali interests or to the overall security of the Horn of Africa, including Somalia, Ethiopia, Djibouti, and Eritrea?
Well, there are 16 African countries in this continent, who all of them are landlocked. And fortunately, all of them have access to the sea. And Red Sea is one of the seas that surrounds Africa. So if Ethiopia wants to reach the Red Sea, they can, but there are always standards, ways to reach, and I hope that they will follow that universally accepted standards to reach there. And I haven't seen any now war or contentious issues standing. I have been hearing rumors that Ethiopia and Eritrea are going to fight on the Red Sea and all this, but I've never officially heard it from it. But Somalia will never stand and support for any violence or any violation of sovereignty of any country in the world. So we hope that the Red Sea is a very, very important and strategic sea. Of course, Somalia is not immediately part, but it concerns our economy, it concerns our security, and we have a say on it. So we hope that all those countries who are bordered with the Red Sea and those who have security concerns about the Red Sea, all of them has to agree and has to understand each other. There is no country that can be allowed to violate the sovereignty and the territorial integrity of any other country. And I'm not hoping, I'm not expecting that there will be a war, but our position is very clear. We need countries to, when they have issues, to sit together, dialogue, and agree on, but not use of forces. It's not our favor at all.
Another important development is Somalia's election as a non-permanent member of the United Nations Security Council last January. First, Mr. President, what key issues do you plan to raise or advocate for within the Council? And is there any coordination between you and major Arab countries in this regard?
Well, Somalia has been in the UN Security Council in 1972. Since then, we were not. This is again the second time now we are elected member of the UN, non-permanent member of the UN Security Council. As you rightly said, we have many hats to wear when we are there in the UN Security Council. Of course, we are African, and we are part of the African Union, 3 countries that represent African Union. Somalia is one. So we are binded with the principles and the issues of the African Union as well. On the other hand, we are member of the Arab League, and we represent there for the interests of the Arab world, wherever there is an issue concerning the Arab world. Right now, Palestine is an issue, and our position has always been very clear and will remain that clear position. On the third time, we are also a member of the OIC, and we represent the Islamic world there as well. So when it comes to the Islamic issues, also Somalia has to stand. So we have these multiple roles there, but above all, we are there, those countries who are fragile, like Somalia did, who have problem of security, like we did. Our own feelings are and sympathy are with those countries that are in a similar situation or close to the situations of Somalia. So Somalia will stand there, and we will always be on the right side of the issues. Somalia is a small country. We have our global or international agenda is limited only to those issues, and we are a member of the non-aligned world as well. So we are not in one block or the other. We are there for those interests by those people.
Mr. President, how would you assess Somalia's relationship with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia?
Well, again, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is similarly a country that we have a very, very strong traditional relationship for, of course, centuries since the event of Islam in that country. And Somalia, one of those countries who have. So Somalia and Saudi Arabia shared a lot of long history. At times, Somalia stood with Saudi Arabia when they were difficult, maybe a century or so ago. And since then, since independence, when His Majesty King Faisal was there in the 1960s, Saudi Arabia has always been with Somalia, supporting Somalia at difficult times. And since today, they are still with us, and they are supporting Somalia, of course, diplomatically. And in the past, it was humanitarian, that was the needs of Somalia. But today, it's again development and investment in Somalia's interest now at this right moment. And Saudi Arabia and Somalia, there are a lot of discussions going on for development and investment projects in the near future.
To what extent do you see coordination between Mogadishu and Riyadh developing on issues of mutual concern, such as counterterrorism and regional stability?
Well, as I said, there are many files that are right now going on for discussion, and some of them are just close to end soon, maybe in a very short period of time. But so far, what we have prominently already achieved is the collaboration between us on the war against terror. Saudi Arabia trains our security forces, part of our security forces at senior level, leadership level even, and Saudi Arabia also contributes sharing information about the terrorists on both sides of that. So that file is already moving forward, but there are other files that are in the process of discussion right now.
Mr. President, Somalia remains at war with terrorist groups, but it also suffers from challenges such as unemployment and underdevelopment. What is your vision for addressing these issues, and how can Somalia take advantage of global competition, Western, Chinese, American, and even Russian, to promote development in the country?
Well, first of all, as you rightly said, Somalia is in a terrorist war for almost close to 2 decades now. But we have been gaining experience on that. Usually, traditionally, Somalia was fighting with the terrorists on the military front only. And now we develop a new strategy that concerns about the ideological war against the terrorists and the financial war against terrorists. I was curbing the financing terror as well. So multiple fronts are now Somalia fighting against these terrorists. Now, the issue now we have is, as I said earlier, we don't have a big agenda, global agenda. Our agenda is national or regional at the moment, at the best. So the competition between the West and the East and all this also, it affects the whole world. Because, as you rightly said, when two elephants are fighting, the grass is the suffers. So the developing world suffers when the big powers are fighting each other. We have our own concerns on some of the issues, but the world is changing, and we hope that the United Nations, the international order, the international financing architecture, so many things are under constant review. We hope that it will go in the right direction. But for us, we are a friend to everybody, unless that everybody proves that they are not our friend.
Mr. President, allow me to pause at this critical point. Combating al-Shabaab and other terrorist organizations. How do you assess the current threat posed by al-Shabaab? And how effective are the ongoing military operations against it in Somalia?
Well, Somalia is fighting not only al-Shabaab, but we are also fighting Daesh in the northern part of Somalia, the mountainous part in the northern Somalia, northeastern Somalia, particularly Puntland area. A success has been reached there by the Somali security forces there, as well as we are doing the same here in al-Shabaab. Shabaab, we are fighting for, as I said, almost close to 2 decades now, very experienced, have a very strong network within the society, particularly the rural Somalia, where they have been there. Those kids that were born when al-Shabaab took over in the 2007, 2008 in the country are now, 28 years, 27 years old. They are the ones who are fighting. People that has been in rural area, never exposed to any other part or any other world, never have a free media to listen to, follow up. So they have been indoctrinated for more than a decade is the one. So this is not an easy task. Somalia is facing that task. Yes, we are getting very, very good support from the international partners, but not enough. Not enough yet. Most of the burden is facing Somalia with its own limited resources, but the people of Somalia, because of the mobilization of the government by the people, to the people, now the people is really the ones that are leading the fighting, not only our formal security forces. Yes, we are, on one hand, we are building our security forces, and on the other hand, we are fighting. You can understand. And building a security forces is not a very short term, it's a long term and a long process. So there is a lot of challenges going on, but so far we've succeeded to push al-Shabaab in many parts of Somalia. But Somalia is a big country, and more than 60% of the population are living in the rural area. So still the threat of al-Shabaab is still imminent in Somalia, and it's a threat, real threat, but it's not as it was before. Mogadishu has never been a secure place, and for the last 3.5 years, I have been attacked 5 times by al-Shabaab when I was touring the country and standing in front lines with explosive vehicles driving on, as they did recently even here in Mogadishu. But now their capability of using those techniques and all this are weak, and they are many places very far away.
Mr. President, last March, you personally survived an assassination attempt, thankfully unharmed. What can you tell us about this security breach? What vulnerabilities did the terrorists exploit to target you personally, and through you, the symbolic representation of the state?
One thing that al-Shabaab has convinced themselves is that this war going on, there is only one switch. If you make it off, the whole war will stop, and that is the assassination of Hassan. So they have tried. And not only this time, even from 2012, they have been trying to assassinate me, to kill me, but they never succeeded, and inshallah they will not succeed. Now, in the recent attack here, they built a bomb inside a house on the side of the road map. The house itself, a huge bomb. It was not something outside. When my convoy was passing there, they exploded, and one of my cars were were serious damage. Fortunately, none of our people, my close protection people, died there. They destroyed the car. And so since then, the interagency task force has been assigned to follow up what has happened and how and who did it with al-Shabaab. Since then, they were making follow-up, and I think 3 days back, the man who has engineered this has been eliminated. He has been neutralized, and his team, 10 of his team, and he himself has been neutralized, very far away from Mogadishu. So the risk is always there. They try. They have been trying all the time here in Mogadishu, but they didn't succeed by bringing a car into Mogadishu or going and taking over hotels and public places, ministries. They were using to go and fight for 2-3 days there until they are complete of them eliminated. That thing has not happened in the last 8-9 months here in Mogadishu. So, and then there is a very clear strategy built on, which will be going on expanding from Mogadishu, pushing back until we reach it to the borders of Somalia.
During my visit this week to displacement camps in Mogadishu and to the town of Barire in southwestern Somalia, recently liberated from al-Shabaab by the army, I met many Somalis who expressed hope to return to their homes. Mr. President, when will these people be able to return safely to their towns?
First of all, there are not only those villages, but there are millions, almost 2 million people throughout Somalia who are displaced people, internally displaced people, all over Somalia. Most of them displaced by al-Shabaab, but some of them are displaced by droughts, floods, or natural disasters. So it's true that cities, when you know al-Shabaab, what they do, they dug tunnels below the city and they fight there, and the city was destroyed. So the Somali government will be working on bringing those people back. There is one more place that's remaining for that front, which is Barire, which we are going to take over in the coming days and weeks. So the government will work on the rehabilitation of those. So this is agricultural, it's the basket, food basket of Somalia. It's the territory that produces most of the food in Somalia. So the government of Somalia will work with the people and help the people to rehabilitate their houses and their life back again.
Let's turn, Mr. President, to domestic politics. How do you view the direct election scheduled for next year? The first in 57 years since the last vote in 1960.
First of all, it was 1969, the last election. March 1969 was the last election here in Somalia. Since then, democratic election has not happened. And we have what do you call it, the indirect election, the selection process. It was good, but it was improving from one time after the other. Now we reached to a level that after 25 years of the Third Republic of Somalia that was established in 2000, we cannot remain in the indirect election, and the world cannot deal with us anymore with the indirect election. People that has not been elected by leaders that has not been elected by the people or the representative of the people. So this time, that's what we are working. I will not claim that we will make the elections 100% perfect or 100% all the 20 million Somalis will vote. But from few thousand people that were selecting the leaders, now we wanted to reach a couple of million people. Only here in Mogadishu, almost 1 million has been registered as voter registers, and all over federal member states, registrations are going on. So what we are expecting is a couple of million, 3 million, 4 million people will participate in the election. And I think that it has been clear and very visible that the Somali people, how the Somali people are interested to play. People who have never been go into a voting booth now are saying our dreams have come true and they want to go. Case of example, there was a lady who said, I'm 60 years old, I've never voted, and I was not expecting that I will vote. This is the time that I will leave. So it's the population are very enthusiastic, and always there is a political opposition is there, but things are moving through institutions. We establish it reviewed the constitution, established the electoral law, the political party law. All the tools of the game are set in place, and the security is moderately acceptable. We go on as far as we can.
Mr. President, both Puntland and Jubaland have called on the federal government to engage in dialogue over the electoral crisis, suggesting that such dialogue could be the key to resolving it. How did you respond to this invitation?
Elections are two levels. One is local election, local municipalities, federal member states, and one is the national election selected by the parliament of both chambers and, of course, the leadership. So far what we are focusing now is the local elections, which is going to be soon. Puntland is not included because they did the local elections already. They make one man, one vote local elections. But both Puntland and the Jubaland, we are in the process of pursuing them, and by the time of the local elections, we hope the problem of Jubaland will be settled, and before the national elections as well, the problem of Puntland will be settled. So the channels of communication are already open, and we are continuing with a dialogue with them.
You often say that the federal government is a unifying government. Have you succeeded in achieving unity between the central government and Somalia's regional states, especially given the country's political and clan diversity?
No, the federal system has always a problem. The best time a federal system can be easily implemented is when the state is stable, when the rules are there, when everything is set. Our has been established in a very difficult time, so a lot has been improving. Even now, this term I'm in, there was every 2 months we have a dialogue space, what we call it National Consultative Council, NCC, which is the heads of states, federal member states, and the federal government sit together and discuss about the future political structure of the state, the governance system, the judiciary, everything. So many things has been agreed on. There are little political issues that are still under consideration, and the government our doors are always open. We are willing to reach out everybody, and we are willing to accommodate everybody, as we did recently. Strong and important elements of the opposition has been agreed with the federal government, but still there are others who are remaining, which we are still pursuing.
What were the main obstacles you faced before forming the government? How would you describe your relationship with Eastern Somalia, which recently became part of the federal government, and with Northern Somalia as a whole?
First of all, the northeastern state, the area was a very difficult area. It has been a disputed area for such a long time. All the necessities of those citizens who are there has never been implemented. The humanitarian was not reaching enough there. Governance system was very weak, and it was part of Somaliland. All over Somaliland is a very stable and peaceful place. We say clear on that. There is no problem. But unfortunately, between this region and Somaliland, there was problem. We ourselves, we have tried to stabilize and talk to the Somaliland leadership, the former leadership, not the current leadership, not to continue. Because principally, we believe that violence will never bring satisfactory results. So we've tried, but unfortunately it never happened. So this is a place now that has very limited chance to go back to Somaliland, number one. Number two, they are a very strong unionists who are willing to unite. But even then, and they have that position for a long time, but even then, although they were unionists, we have never interfered, never encouraged. We have been trying to get the whole Somaliland one time, agreed with them and bring them together. But the process has got prolonged for a long time, and there was no immediate visible solutions in the past. So that's that. So this region is a very difficult region throughout the history. It is the border between the colonial British and the colonial Italian, and it has always been that. That is the land of the Mad Mullah in the history of Somalia, Sayyid Muhammad Abdullah Hassan. That was an area that has been like that. That was a very controversial area most of the time. The last democratically elected president was assassinated there. So there must be an administration and governance system in that area. Without governance system, the people in that area will suffer, and it will create problem to all, both Somaliland, Puntland, other regions. So the only option that we had was to support them, to have their own administrative structure that they consensually agreed, and they did it. Somaliland may have concerns, Puntland may have concerns, but all those concerns can be settled with dialogue, with amicable solution, using our traditional system of peace building.
أشكركم فخامة الرئيس.
Thank you, Mr. President, for this special interview. And thank you, dear viewers, for watching Al Arabiya. Until next time.